Welcome to part 2. I'm that nerd girl D, and we're still talking about the shopping cart killer. So, this guy is sadistic, and it's gonna get worse.
Other victims. This video isn't over yet. Remember, Anthony is suspected of killing a total of 6 women. Now, let's talk about the other 4. The next 2 victims were also found together. Sickeningly, these next 2 women were found in the same container, piled on top of one another. Well, let's start with Cheyenne Brown. Anthony Robinson has yet to be charged with the deaths of the next 2 women that we're about to discuss. Cheyenne Brown, 29, was last seen taking the metro from D.C. to the Huntington Metro stop in Virginia on September 30th, 2021. Robinson is believed to be the last person to see her alive. Phone records indicate that she and Robinson have been in contact with one another. Brown met Robinson on Plenty of Fish. She was staying at the Moon Inn Hotel, which is across the street from where her body was found. Brown was 4 months pregnant when she was murdered, and she leaves behind a 7-year-old son.
Picture of 29-year-old Cheyenne Brown and her 7-year-old son Juan may be one of the last they shared. His grandmother says he's struggling to understand. His mom is in heaven now.
But he still picks up the phone and he still tries to call her. So I know he doesn't really understand.
Nicandra Brown says on September 30th, Cheyenne got on a metro bus in D.C. and disappeared. She was 5 months pregnant at the time.
Calling, hospitals, checking for like Jane Does or unidentified women and, checking the morgue. And I was a wreck.
In early December, Fairfax County Police found what they believe is Cheyenne's body. They suspect she's one of at least 4 alleged victims of the shopping cart killer, a man they say met women on dating apps and did, quote, unspeakable things to them, then used shopping carts to move their bodies.
I don't even know what words. It's just terrible.
Police have arrested 35-year-old Anthony Robinson for the murders. When Nicandra's cousin saw his picture, she says he recognized him as a man Cheyenne had brought to their house before.
And I'm so angry. Like, I don't even have tears anymore. I'm just like, why would you do this to my daughter? She didn't deserve that. She was just so full of life.
And so is her son.
And he has the same heart like his mom. It's like, she's still here with us.
The investigation. Now it's time to bring it all together. It's a complicated web that has been woven, and now it's time to untangle it. It's crazy. Cheyenne Brown and Anthony Robinson knew each other weeks or possibly months before she died. Cheyenne's mother said that she saw Robinson in their home once before. According to Brown's cousin Jonathan Willis, he kicked Robinson out of their home 10 days before she disappeared. Robinson reportedly returned the next day and Willis had to kick him out again. That was the family's last encounter with Robinson and last time any of them would see him until the police started investigating Cheyenne's death.
Relative believes he saw Robinson in her home in the days leading up to her disappearance.
I seen him over here like a day later, and I did the same thing, put him out again. I haven't heard nothing since then, haven't seen him around here since then.
Brown was last seen on September 30th when she left home in the 200 block of 36th Street at 3 p.m., headed to the Metro bus stop close to her house. Every Metro bus and train are equipped with high-definition cameras. The cameras have no audio, but they have great facial recognition software. Metro camera footage captured Robinson and Brown together on September 30th, the same day that Brown disappeared. Cell phone data places Brown at or near the Moon Inn at the same time that Robinson had a room at the hotel. The cell phone tower was able to ping Brown's cell phone and it got a hit on Route 1, placing her at or near the Moon Inn. This is significant because Brown and Harrison's bodies were found in the Route 1 corridor area. On December 7th, D.C. police called Fairfax County Police and asked for help finding Brown. Harrisburg Police Department contacted 36 law enforcement agencies to solve this crime. Investigators were about to find out that Robinson had stayed at the Moon Inn 5 times. Stephanie Harrison had no connection to Brown. The women did not know one another and were murdered 1 month apart and stayed at the hotel at separate times, but it was Stephanie's sister Joey who would lead investigators to their bodies. Joey enlisted the help of the Aware Foundation, who placed flyers all over the DMV area to bring awareness to Stephanie's disappearance. The Aware Foundation is an organization that assists families with finding missing loved ones. They work side by side with law enforcement and the public to find the lost. If you have a loved one who is missing and you live in the DMV area, they may be a resource to finding your missing family. Call 1-833-933-4639. Joey Harrison contacted the Virginia police diligently in hopes of finding her sister. She provided police with Stephanie's credit card statements to prove that her sister checked into the Moon Inn Hotel on August 19th. This credit card paid for Stephanie's room. This evidence let the police know that they needed to search the area again. The police had searched the surrounding area of the hotel with cadaver dogs days before but could not find the women. The new information prompted a second search, which led investigators to a wooded area near Route 1. At the site, a container and shopping cart was found. In the container were 2 bodies. Cheyenne's body had been stacked on top of Stephanie. When police removed the bodies, Brown emerged first, and that is when they saw Stephanie's body underneath. Both bodies were so badly decomposed that they needed DNA testing to confirm the women's identity. Brown was identified by a tattoo on her ankle and then the DNA test. Again, Robinson has not been charged with the slaying of these women, even though the evidence proves Robinson's connection to the women. The Fairfax County Police are waiting to see what happens with the Harrisburg cases. To the authorities in Fairfax County, they feel that the Harrisburg PD have a stronger case.
The man police say is the shopping cart killer was in court this week, and so was evidence the public hasn't seen yet. Anthony Robinson is accused of killing 54-year-old Aline Redmond and 39-year-old Tanita Larice Smith last fall. Police rolled surveillance footage in court yesterday during a preliminary hearing, which showed Redmond going into Robinson's hotel room, but she never came out alive. Instead, Robinson is seen pushing a shopping cart with what police say was her lifeless body and white bed sheets. Text messages also put Redmond at the hotel.
The Commonwealth is required to put evidence to show the judge that they have probable cause to believe that these offenses happened and that the defendant is the one who committed them. It is not a trial beyond a reasonable doubt. It is a probable cause hearing.
While police searched for Redmond, they were working a missing persons case a month later for Smith. Her phone also showed her last location at the same hotel, and police say they have video of Smith entering Robinson's room, but never again coming out alive. Both bodies were later found dumped behind the hotel. When Robinson was arrested, he said both women died after overdosing, and he didn't know what to do with them. Police say it was more calculated than that. Last December, police felt the urgency to find out if Robinson had killed others.
I don't want to give this guy a cape, but that's who he is. He's a killer. He's a serial killer. We know who he is, thank God. He's behind bars right now, but that still doesn't take away from the urgency that exists to identify any other victims that might be out here.
Robinson is now being investigated in 3 other slayings in Fairfax County, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. So far, he has not been charged in those cases.
The prosecutors, I believe in Fairfax, had indicated that they thought the Harrisonburg cases were the strongest, and they were just going to hold off to see what happened.
Other women. However, something interesting happened. When Fairfax County contacted other law enforcement agencies, 36 to be exact, they discovered other potential victims. All of the agencies started searching other missing person and death cases, and it led them to Skye Allen and Sandra Champ. Sandra Champ, 40, of Washington, D.C. was found in a shopping cart on September 7, 2021, in the 200 block of F Street northeast of Stanton Park. The medical examiner could not determine her cause of death, but the police suspect that she may have been murdered by Anthony Robinson. Phone records indicate that she and Robinson had contact with one another. Also, her body was covered in a sheet, which is Robinson's MO. A person passing by found her body and called 911. The first responders pronounced her dead at the scene. Digital evidence, mainly camera footage, places Robinson and Champ together at Union Station. Robinson has not been charged with the death of Sonia Champ. The evidence is circumstantial, and the Harrisburg and Fairfax County cases are stronger, so he may not see justice from this crime legally, but the world knows.
I heard that my daughter was dead, because I didn't know what was going on.
Months after police found her daughter's body, Norma Hairston may now finally know who could be responsible for her death. Investigators found 40-year-old Sonia Champ dead along this street near Union Station last September. A police report obtained by WSA 9 on Saturday described how investigators found her body inside of a shopping cart.
Good evening. Thanks for coming out so late on a Friday night.
This week, police revealed that Champ could be the fifth victim connected to 35-year-old alleged serial killer Anthony Robinson, dubbed the shopping cart killer, who officers arrested in December. Investigators linked Robinson to 4 victims, with some of them possibly lured using dating apps.
Sonia is a sweet person. She pretty much stays to herself.
Champ's mother says she learned of the possible connection on Saturday, and the update brought needed relief.
I didn't know what she died from. None of that. None of that. So I have closure now.
The past 3 months filled with heartbreak and questions she hopes to one day possibly ask Robinson.
I would like to talk to him. I really would, just to see what type of person he was, that you out here taking people's lives.
Skye Allen, 30, had the strongest connection to Robinson. She was his fiancée. In 2018, Skye Allen was found barely breathing and unconscious in her bed by her mother after spending the night with Robinson on Valentine's Day. Skye Allen died at the hospital the same day. The medical examiner listed her cause of death as cardiac arrhythmia and wrote natural causes on her death certificate. Skye Allen's mother, Stacey Allen, doesn't believe that her daughter's death was natural. She asked Robinson if he killed her daughter, and he said no. The day Skye died was the last time her mother ever saw Robinson until the police started investigating Robinson and called her to inquire about Skye's death. Unfortunately, Skye's remains were cremated, so exhuming her body will not be possible. Robinson more than likely will not be charged for Skye's death. Sadly, the best that we can hope is that Robinson gets convicted for the other murders. The police are still investigating Skye's death as a murder. The cold case unit will still do the best investigation they can, considering that a serial killer is attached to her death and this case has received national attention. I want this to go viral. I want justice for all of Robinson's victims. According to the Prince County Police, they did not open an investigation into Allen's death in 2018 because they were not notified by the hospital of Skye's passing. Police are investigating if there are any more victims because Robinson addresses span from DC to New York. He lives a transient, drifter lifestyle. The police are working with the FBI. During the investigation, it doesn't have a criminal history, which is strange. How does one commit serial murder without committing any other offenses? It's not unheard of, just uncommon.
It's just crazy.
Stacey Allen has always believed her daughter Skye did not die from a heart problem. She found the 30-year-old unconscious, barely breathing in her bedroom on February 14th, Valentine's Day, 2018. She says she was drawn to the room by uncharacteristic silence because she says Skye always snored.
If I don't hear her snoring, she's up. I didn't hear no more snoring.
Allen says doctors at Prince George's Hospital Center declared Skye died of cardiac arrhythmia. But something, a mother's instinct, told her that Anthony Robinson, the man who shared Skye's bedroom, the man she was planning a future with, a man nobody in the family really cared for, had something to do with it. She says she asked Robinson point blank if he killed Skye.
I asked him, did you do something to my daughter? He said no.
That was the last time she saw Anthony Robinson, until sometime around Thanksgiving last year.
The indictment. Now we'll get into the indictment. An indictment is a formal charge of a serious crime. During a criminal indictment, prosecutors bring the case before a grand jury and present evidence of the crime that the defendant allegedly committed. When a grand jury indicts a defendant, a case will be filed against them in a court of law. The indictment is merely a charge and not a conviction. Also, a grand jury is a legal proceeding where a group of jurors decide if there is enough evidence to charge or indict you for a crime. A charge and an indictment are slightly different. A charge is when the prosecutor files charges against you. The indictment is the grand jury. Indictment hearings are different from criminal hearings. Instead of 12 jurors, there are 16 to 23. The proceedings can only be attended by people who are allowed to be there: the jurors, prosecution, the accused, and the defendant's attorney. Lawyers for the witnesses are not allowed. They can be outside of the courtroom in case the witnesses have questions, but not in. After all of the evidence is presented, the grand jury will formally charge the defendant. After the indictment, if the defendant isn't in custody, an arrest warrant is issued. A defendant is allowed to bail out if they have been indicted. In the case of Anthony Robinson, he was already in police custody, and he was refused bail. There is a lot more to the proceedings. I'm just summarizing. I am not a lawyer or legal professional, so if you are in trouble, I suggest seeking real legal counsel. After the indictment, a defendant can also enter a plea. Anthony Robinson has not done so yet. Defense attorney Louis Nagy asked for and was granted a delay in proceedings, stating that he needed more time to do research and consider options for his client. This is probably why Robinson has not entered a plea yet. On November 23, 2021, Anthony Eugene Robinson was arrested for the murder with 4 crimes, 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of concealing a body. At the indictment, a new charge of aggravated murder of more than one person within 3 years, which is a Class 1 felony, the most serious crime under Virginia law. Robinson's attorney tried to get the charges downgraded to murder too because the evidence was circumstantial, and said the prosecutor had not shown that Robinson killed Redmond or Smith. He also said that the medical examiner had not made a definitive conclusion about how either woman died, and police do not know what occurred inside of the Howard Johnson hotel room. Defense attorney Louis Nagy asked Detective Wetherell what happened to a woman who was seen entering and leaving Robinson's room, unharmed on November 11. Nagy believes that this demonstrates that Robinson did not engage in premeditated murder because other women have come and gone without being harmed. The identity of the woman has not been made public. Nagy also tried to get a gag order placed on the police to keep them from referring to Robinson as the shopping cart killer, or a serial killer. I guess this is to provide Robinson with the best defense. This case has received national attention. I saw it on several news broadcasts. This increases the risk of potential jurors having prior knowledge of the case. The defense may fear that referring to Robinson as a serial killer or the shopping cart killer to the public will create a bias that can interfere with Robinson getting a fair trial. I'm not a legal professional, but that is my guess. Prosecutor Marcia gasped that he used the women for what he wanted and left them to rot with the maggots. After seeing all of the evidence, Judge John Stanley Hart sided with the prosecution and ruled that there was sufficient probable cause for a grand jury to consider first-degree murder. He said that the circumstantial evidence was strong and pointed to a methodical plan to kill. Robinson's next court date is on October 31, 2022. It is fitting that this horror show plays out on Halloween. I will be following the case until it ends.
We finally reached the conclusion of this video, so here's a timeline. Stephanie Harris was the first victim. Going missing on August 19th, she was found dead on December 15th. Sonia Champ was found dead on September 7th. Cheyenne Brown went missing on September 30th and was found dead on December 15th with Harrison. Beth Redmond went missing on October 24th and was found dead on November 23rd. Tanita Smith went missing on November 19th and was found with Redmond on December 15th. Skye Allen died on November 7th, 2018. These are a lot of murders in such a short span. 5 murders in 3 months. This bastard didn't even bury these ladies properly. He murdered Redmond and Smith at the Howard Johnson Hotel, a month apart from one another. He then murdered Brown and Harrison 2 months apart at the Moon Inn. Such a weird timeline. He murdered Harrison at the Moon Inn and then murdered Redmond at the Howard Johnson Inn. Murdered Champ God knows where, in between Harrison and Redmond. 3 weeks span between these murders. He then traveled back to the Moon Inn, where he met and murdered Brown, and then went back to the Howard Johnson Hotel to kill Smith. He murdered someone every 3 to 4 weeks. How fucking sick is this shit? He put their remains in the same location. He couldn't even get a different container for Brown and Harrison. He dumped them like they didn't matter, but they do. Anthony Robinson is one of the cruelest killers that I've ever heard of. When the trial commences, we will learn everything that transpired in those hotel rooms. Unfortunately, if convicted, Robinson will not face the death penalty because the state of Virginia abolished the death penalty on March 24, 2021. Prior to abolishing the death penalty, aggravated murder was considered a death penalty eligible offense, in which a conviction would result in execution. He will spend the rest of his life in prison if convicted and not eligible for good time credit or geriatric release. I think Robinson will be convicted of the Harrisburg trial, and then the other districts will act so that he will never get out of jail. If Robinson somehow beats the charges, Fairfax County will go after him with vigor. Let's not forget that the FBI is on the case and they are searching the entire eastern half of the United States to find potential links to other missing person cases. I hope this video will spark anyone that knows anything to contact the police. To quote prosecutor Marcia Garst, he used them for what he wanted, and then he left them rotting with the maggots. These women didn't matter to him. He couldn't even give them a proper burial. He just dumped them. But they do matter. They were mothers, sisters, and daughters. If you have had any contact with Anthony Eugene Robinson, please contact the Fairfax County Department of Major Crimes Bureau at 703-246-7800 or call their anonymous tip line at 1-866-411-TIPS. I'll leave you with the words of Nakandra Bound, a mother mourning not just her daughter but other, because Robinson definitely killed more victims. And then I'll also leave you with Beth Redmond's daughter, the other one, in their parting words. Thank you for watching. I'm That Nerd Girl D. Sorry for all the stumbling. I have a lisp. But please, if you hear anything, please call. Bye.
Heart killer. Monster. Like, who are you? What kind of person would do that to anybody, let alone just vulnerable women? I think I would want to ask him, why my daughter? Why these other women? You know, it's not just my daughter that, you know, I'm feeling for. You know, it's the other women that, you know, he, you know, have done, you know, possibly done this to.
You see it on TV, and I mean, it really is like exactly what goes on in the shows right now. Like everything that's happening, for people just all of a sudden, and then how many more are there going to be? I mean, in a way, I kind of feel like there has to be more too, because you don't just wake up one day and start doing that.